All right, so I'm inspired today by what Marcus Tullius Cicero says, that the safety of the people is the highest of law. And of course, any law that is made must bring safety to the people. With this, I welcome you to another exciting episode of Ghana's Youth President. This is where the action is. It's the battlefield of ideas. Today, it's simple. We're dealing with issues of law. Special prosecutor of each cabinet would lock horns here on the floor. And I can tell you it's going to be an exciting moment. We have the judges ready. We have the Right Honorable Speaker also ready. First off, I have with us here Lawyer Kwame Jantwa, the chair of the Oil and Gas sector of AGI, and of course, the former vice chair, Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. We can't wait for your deep thoughts. Anyway, we'll go to the next judge, and is Lawyer Elsie Apau, a lawyer as well, obviously, of course, a human resource specialist. And of course, last but not least, is Mr. Michael Ni Anan, who is a leading member of the New Patriotic Party and also the parliamentary candidate for the Ododo Diodio constituency. Ladies and gentlemen. Thanks. All right, so we'll take a break here. When we come back, I'll get to introduce who our first candidates will be, and we'll take it on from there. Don't go anywhere. The Ghana's Youth President returns shortly. All right, so welcome back, and this is Ghana's Youth President. Remember that 20,000 Ghana cedis cash is available as project fund for the best performing cabinet, the cabinet that emerges as the best. And of course, the presidential candidate that becomes the first ever Ghana's Youth President also walks away with 11,000 Ghana cedis that he shares with the rest of his ministers. Then again as well, we have consolation prizes at the end of the show for the best performing ministers. And of course, today, we start off with two gentlemen. But before then, remember that you have 40% at home. The judges have 60, you have 40. The code, the short code is *714 *13#. And then you follow, vote for your best candidates and of course, cabinet. And I just want you to know that we have 5 contesting cabinets here today on this episode. One cabinet is still out, that is the Gadgesburg cabinet. And so we have the Osagifo cabinet, we have the Republic cabinet, the Democrat cabinet, Gold Coast cabinet, and of course the Ya Asantewa cabinet. All locking horns here and now. But first off, we are going to be starting with 2 of them. And they are all standing by. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Gold Coast cabinet, Joseph Bonzi Afrifa is representing. And on my right here is from the Republic Cabinet, Abdullahi Tajuddin is also here. Gentlemen, are you ready? These are issues of law, and we need to state facts. Judges, if you're ready, I'm going to be giving Mr. Joseph Bonzi Afrifa 3 minutes to state his point. Your time begins now.
The Right Honorable Supreme Judges, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is a specialized agency to investigate and prosecute cases of alleged corruption and corruption-related activities by public officers. Now, it is a popular opinion that most corruption has become a norm in our country, where people are cheered and marked as smart for their corrupt practices. In my opinion, education could be one of the valuable tools to fight against corruption. So with respect to Section 3 of Act 959, which is the Special Prosecutor Act, the Special Prosecutor is to coordinate with relevant authorities and other agencies in the furtherance of the Act. So with the introduction of moral ethics course in our second cycle and tertiary institutions, I think it will help to educate the youth on proper attitudes towards work. Already we have our religious and moral education, which is at the basic level, but then when they get to the second cycle and tertiary, it is thrown away. So I want it to be introduced in the second cycle institutions and the tertiary institutions. Also, internship opportunities should be given to students in the Office of the Special Prosecutor. With this, they will serve as agents of the office, and at the end of their internship, they will be given a motivation, which is a certificate, and an ambassadorial status, where they will be given a project to go out there and educate other youth on the purpose of the Special Prosecutor. Article 218 of the Constitution, where the charge is to educate, take forms to educate people on human rights. I want this to be introduced in the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where they will engage in rallies, symposia, and other lectures to educate the public on preventing corruption. On the other hand, most of our corruption scandals are related to procurement, and that our procurement laws should be strengthened. So with that, with respect to Section 14.3 of Act 959, the Office of the Special Prosecutor can delegate its powers to other agencies. So with this, I think infusion of officers of the Special Prosecutor in certain pertinent ministries would be a good cause, where these people will serve as agents, and with the powers of the office, they will gain access to documents of these institutions, and the Public Procurement Authority would be one of them. Also, when you look at Act 663, which is the Procurement Act Board to publish the annual reports of the office, under Section 13 of it, they are to publish it at the 3 months after each year, which I think is quite a long time, so it should be regular, which I propose a quarterly basis so that it can be well checked. And also, when you look at the Act, they impose no sanction for failure to publish such an annual report. So I think sanction, that is payment of fine, should be introduced where the board fails to publish the annual reports as due. With this, I think we can go on to generate revenue for other sectors and to promote probity and accountability in the country.
3 minutes to Republic Cabinet's Abdullahi Tajuddin.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker, eminent judges. The Center for Democratic Development reports that Ghana lost a whooping amount of 9.6 billion Ghana cedis for public debt out of corruption. And these monies have not been accounted for since 2017. And I believe that the ordinary spare part dealer at Abu Sokai and the cocoa seller at Damango believes that the taxes that they pay to the government are supposed to be used for developmental projects that inure to the benefits. And so when this is not done and we see corruption on a crescendo, it begs to ask the question, and it is worrying as a country. Mr. Speaker, to nip corruption in the bud, I believe, and with my cabinet, we believe that we need to narrow the discussion down. I believe that we need to, as it were, and we need to recourse with my office, we are going to recourse to Parliament to pass an LI that will give the Auditor General the power to determine the budget for state agencies. As it stands now, it is the Finance Ministry that determines budgets for state agencies. And the point is, these budgets are not accounted for at the end of the day. And so if we give the power, or we have an LI that governs or gives the Auditor General to determine budget for state agencies, then they give you a seal. So when you're a state agency that spends beyond the seal, the Auditor General can recommend that you are prosecuted. As it stands now, the Auditor General is toothless. You cannot buy. What they can only do is to audit reports and then forward to Parliament for action to be taken. And so I believe that that is one of the things that we need to look at. Mr. Speaker, I believe that as part of nibbling corruption in the bud, we need to, as a country, depoliticize corruption as a nation to understand that corruption is something that we abhor and that retards development of this country. And I believe that that can be done by the citizen being willing and ready to fight collectively as a country to nip this corruption in the bud. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I believe also that we need to avoid political witch hunt. That is, if we are ready enough to kill corruption in this country. The fact is, if we have a political party that has his or a member laid before court for issues of alleged corruption, you have people or supporters of the political party mass up at the courts in solidarity for these people. But I believe that if we allow the agencies to work, if we allow institutions to work, we would overcome corruption and we'll deal with that. And I believe that we would run sensitizations and forums on these matters with the citizenry so that they are aware that indeed it is something that we all need not to condone. Mr. Speaker, permit me again to let you understand that corruption goes with opacity and corruption goes with transparency. And if you have a situation where these key elements that superintend over corruption ensure that there is no corruption, or corruption acts are not engaged, or people don't engage in corruption acts are missing, then we have an issue as a country. I believe that to ensure transparency and then to ensure that accountability, we need to follow audit reports and we need to prosecute the recommendations that audit reports of various agencies or state agencies are brought before the necessary agencies. And I can assure you that with this, when we follow these key things, I think that we would overcome. And right, also to end, the right
All
to
right, thank you very much. Show of charisma out there by Abdullah Tajuddin. Well, judges, I see you smiling greatly. I'm sure these are very great thoughts. Where do I begin from? I'm sure Elsie is ready. Let's start off with Joseph Bonzi Afrifa from Gold Coast Cabinet. Lawyer Elsie.
Okay. Mr. Afrifa, right? All right. What is your understanding of corruption? And then also, how do you think? Don't we have too many agencies with the mandate of fighting corruption? What different will your institution be doing?
Yes. So basically, corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gains. And with respect to we having so many institutions to fight corruption.
Can you relate that to a source? Can you relate your definition to a source?
As a matter of fact, that should be so. Yeah, so already we had Shraj in place as a proponent of the 1992 Constitution, which gives it the mandate to investigate human rights abuses. And they came with defects and corruption as well. So they came with defects, and it involved to the Serious Fraud Office. And when they came, they had to investigate into matters of corruption, but then they could not take steps to take the proceeds of the corruption. They could only suspend and take penalties for them, but then not gaining the money back. So it came to the EOCO, Economic and Organized Crime Office, and they also had their own defects. And finally, I think the president, in his own way, is of the opinion that we should have a body or an institution which is independent of the executive and can work independently to focus on investigating and prosecuting people for alleged cases of corruption. So the Office of the Special Prosecutor is basically independent of the executive, and that would aid in its work, investigation and prosecution work.
In practice, is it really independent?
In practice, that's part of my submissions, where there should be an amendment of the Constitution, because when you look at Article 88, 3 and 4, the Attorney General is the principal legal advisor, and then all state prosecutions are the suit of the Attorney General. And when you look at Section 58 of the Criminal Procedure Act, the Attorney General can give power to all other agencies to prosecute, such as lawyers and officers. So looking at that, the Special Prosecutor is under the Attorney General, meaning they are taking straight directions. So if the Attorney General is to enter a knowledge prosecute, the prosecution process will automatically come to a halt, which would prevent the Special Prosecutor from functioning effectively. So that should be looked at, where not only in the Act, but then in the Constitution, since that is the supreme law of the land. So that should be considered.
All right. Mr. Michael Nianan.
Thank you for your delivery. But I am not convinced about something. All these institutions mentioned, are they not only effective after the so-called corruption has already occurred? And I did not hear anything about making sure that the corruption itself does not occur before we go after it.
Yes, actually, those institutions were only to take steps after the corruption has occurred. But then when you look at Section 3 of the Act 959, where the mandate of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, he has the mandate to take steps to prevent corruption. So with those steps, I proposed campaigns, as the Shraj does, where they organize lectures, symposia to educate the people. Since corruption is already in place, but then with education, we can train the young ones that this is the way to go. So they should desist from certain practices which are not really encouraging. So I proposed the campaigns and an infusion of officers, and then giving opportunity for the tertiary students to intern at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and made ambassadors of corruption, where they will go out there and educate others as well.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know if you are clear, sir.
Well,
but
we can go on.
Any comments, sir, from Lawyer Jantwa?
You're from Gold Coast, yes?
Yes, please.
Joseph, with regards to your submission, you seemed to be concentrating more on the preventive side of corruption, yes? Yes?
On both sides.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
You're a politician.
No, please.
Well, you're standing. You're
Well,
standing a
it's
minister.
that depends on. Now it's in context. So from what you are.
It's not in context.
Okay.
So far as I can see, you're a minister
Yeah.
and you're a politician. The challenge is the technicalities of the law and being a politician and how you fuse the two together.
Okay.
I didn't hear any part of that. The other thing I'd also want to find out from you, do you know the scope of the office of the special prosecutor? Do you know what his scope is?
With respect to its mandate.
With respect to his mandate and what he's supposed to. You know the scope?
Yes, please.
I didn't hear you say anything about the scope
I started
in
with.
terms of investigation, prosecution, assets recovery, and the management of his finance and administration. And what I was looking for was for you to actually dwell on what he's supposed to do as a special prosecutor. I didn't hear anything of that.
I started with the definition of who a special prosecutor is, and his mandate comes within that.
Yes,
where he
but
is.
I'm looking for the application, not the definitions. I'm looking
Yes.
for how you apply that to corruption. So I was looking, maybe my legal side is coming out. I was looking at how you apply the special prosecutor's office to particular corruption cases.
Yes. So with respect to the powers of the special prosecutor, he has the confiscation powers, the freezing orders, and all those things. So
How do you apply it?
yes, with recourse to court actions.
Okay, all right, let's leave it.
All right, thank you very much. Let's put us together for Joseph Bonzi Afrifa. For those of you who are coming here, remember 2 of our judges are lawyers and 1 is a politician as well. And so let's now quickly move on to the Republic Cabinet's rep, Abdullahi Tajuddin. Judges, if you're ready, let's take questions from you.
Tajuddin, you kept saying something that everybody in Ghana says every day: depoliticizing corruption. It has become our usual song, but you are not telling us how this should be done. It appears you don't understand the work of the special prosecutor as prescribed by the relevant laws. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. I believe that as I said, to depoliticize corruption, as a special prosecutor, in as much as the special prosecutor has the powers to prosecute and, as it were, to investigate, to recover assets and all that, the special prosecutor also owe a responsibility to inform the citizenry of their actions when they.
Maybe let me help you. You said we should depoliticize
Yes.
corruption.
Yes.
Your own appointment,
Yes.
current appointment, was done by a political party led by its president.
Yes.
Do you see something wrong with the appointment process of this special prosecutor?
Respectfully, yes. Reason being that I believe the special prosecutor, as it were, is believed to be somebody who is a staunch person who believes in fighting corruption. And when you have the appointment of a special prosecutor, somewhat perceived to be politically motivated, it really skews the responsibility which he or she is mandated to do. Reason being that you believe that the person is supposed to act in accordance to the tenets with which he or she is supposed to operate. But for the fact that people, or the perception is that once the person has been appointed by the political party, for which reason the person is going to act or victimize or vilify opponents of a different political party, the person is given that position. So that trust alone in the office is gone. But if we demystify the role, if we have people who we actually don't ascribe political affiliations to, but believe that these are people who are campaigners, who are human rights activists, who believe in ensuring that the public purse is protected, we give them this role, give them the support and the resources, and they will deliver. Thank you.
All right. I'm sure Lawyer Jantua has something to say.
Abdul,
Yes, sir.
I believe everybody in this country votes for a particular political party.
Yes.
So, if that is the case, how do you depoliticize it?
Of course, we live in this country. We've seen activists. We've seen people who are campaigners against corruption. There are certain things and certain people, and by the virtue of the fact that they've come up with certain articles, they've come up with certain forums and campaigns and all that against corruption, stands well and stands in the best position to be appointed. You see, people who have not declared their political affiliation and really, indeed, don't want to compromise their integrity and have a very succinct career in terms of measurement of integrity, and then their role in ensuring that corruption is nipped in the bud, are people who stand a chance to be elected. And it doesn't really matter with which political affiliation they are clone to. But once they have displayed and exude that form of integrity and are campaigned against actions that people have perpetuated in terms of corruption,
Very well.
then they are, in
Very
fact,
well.
best
Point
positioned
well
for
made.
these positions.
Very well. All right. So we'll just quickly take a follow-up from Mr. Adam.
Yes, you made mention of political witch hunts.
Yes, sir.
Right. I don't get it. What is it really about if you are saying that other people see it as political witch hunt? Is it that there is no corruption and somebody is forcing corruption to be there, or what?
Thank you very much. When I talk about political witch hunt, basically I'm seeking to establish the point that sometimes when you have certain key officers or certain public officers who are found or culpable in actions of to have allegedly engaged in corrupt acts, who are standing trial before the courts, you find citizens or party fanatics of the political party of which the person is affiliated to mass up at the court in solidarity. In that process, it undermines the rule of law. I believe that when people or opponents...
In what way?
It undermines the rule of law in the sense that people think, okay, once it's a political party member of us, allow the person to go. Maybe probably the person might have been found culpable of the offense which he or she has been leveled against he or she. And so we need to allow due process to go through. We need to allow the law to take its natural course on these matters. If indeed the verdict or the actions of the court comes out that these persons are cleared, then we know
It
that
is also the political right of everyone to mass up at the court and support whoever.
Respectfully, of course, but that should not be done in a manner where it seeks to...
Are you saying that influences the judges?
One way or the other. I mean, we've lived in... the judge... The court... the court is supposed to be a harbinger of truth. The court is supposed to be the harbinger of truth. And the judges who preside over cases are supposed to do so with due diligence and integrity. And so when you have certain people mass up at courts to, as it were, campaign for people who have been alleged to have engaged in corrupt acts, and you have supporters, all these are distractions to the judge. So sometimes the judge, in fact, we live in this country where certain judgments have been given, and at the end of the day, I mean, with all due respect, I'm not saying that. No. Let me clear that. With all due respect, I'm not saying that. The judges are fantastic. I am aspiring to be a lawyer, so the judges are fantastic. But we must adjudicate justice in its proper form, and if it must be done, it must be done well. It must be done with the tenets with which they are supposed to operate.
Thank you very much. You can't get it anywhere just here. This is where the battlefield of idea is. Keep voting. Remember, the code is *714*13#. If you want Gold Coast Cabinet, just choose as well. And of course, Joseph Bonzi Afrifa, their rep, just go *714*13#. And of course, Republic Cabinet, Abdullahi Tajuddin is the name. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce people in segment 2. If you just joined us, this is Ghana's Youth President reality TV show, The Battlefield of Ideas. Well, all you have to do at home, remember that it's keenly contested, and that's why we need your vote. And so just dial *714*13# and vote for your favorite cabinet and, of course, your candidate. We're going on. This is segment 2, and we have from Yasantewa Cabinet, Charles Kingsley Athaba on my left. And then to my right is from the Democrats Cabinet, we have Malachi Doe. Judges, if you're ready, I am ready as well. We'll start off with Yasantua's rep, Charles Kingsley Ataba. 3 minutes. Your time is now.
The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Judges, I am Charles Kingsley Ataba from the Yasantua Cabinet. I stand here as the Special Prosecutor for the Cabinet. Mr. Speaker, to achieve Ghana beyond aid, specific measures have to be put in place to eradicate corruption to a level as low as reasonably achievable, if not completely eliminated, but at least meeting the expectations of the citizens of Ghana. These are some of the policies the Yasantua Cabinet want to put in place. One, our board of directors for the Special Prosecutor would be judges who have retired and also potential attorney generals in the nation, devoid of political interference. We are going to do it based on merit, not based on political affiliation. Also, the ministries, departments, and agencies for the government, that is where most of the problem of corruption comes from. And this is what we are going to do. We are going to, as a special prosecutor, we're going to make sure that each ministry, department, or agencies would have at least 3 mini SPs who would also be in that ministry or department or agency, of which they are going to team up with the internal auditors, with the financial aspect, and also have an IT personnel who would also monitor all the financial transactions of these ministries, departments, and agencies. Mr. Speaker, on the appointees of government, as a special prosecutor, I would ensure that each appointee, including myself, will all of us declare our assets before we assume office. And even our other assets we make during our term of office would also be declared and accounted for. Mr. Speaker, pending cases which are still on our head, like the number 12, like the PPA procurement, the procurement breaches that has come on recently. Mr. Speaker, we are going to make sure we investigate fully as a special prosecutor with my team. We are going to investigate fully and then prosecute where the wrongdoings are. Because my work as a special prosecutor is to investigate and potentially prosecute wrongdoings. And therefore, I'm going to make sure that all these investigations will go on and then we will prosecute these wrongdoings.
And we'll prosecute these wrongdoings. Charles Kingsley Ataba from Yasantua. And now we go quickly. 3 minutes. Democrats, Malachi Dow, take it away.
Honorable Speaker, panel of judges, fellow ministers present, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Malachi, and I'm from the Democrat Cabinet as the Special Prosecutor. Mr. Speaker, as a Special Prosecutor, my focus is to investigate, prosecute, and advocate for corruption-free Ghana, or a country that is corruption-free. And I intend to do this by collaborating with agencies in fighting or in investigating and prosecuting corruption and corruption-related offenses. This I mean to say that the BNI, IOCO, and etc., we are going to effectively collaborate with them during the process of investigation and also prosecuting this corruption and corruption-related issues. The second thing I want to also do is that I want to start a campaign, an advocacy campaign with CSOs, with individuals who are fighting the cause of corruption to educate Ghanaian populace, to educate the people on the effects of corruption and how it has drained us as a nation and how we can be able to fight this in our various canals. So I want to collaborate with these NCCE, collaborate with CSOs so that we can be able to educate people on how on the effects of corruption and how we can be able to curb corruption even in our districts and our municipal assemblies. I also want to add that I will also work in hand with other state agencies like I've said earlier on, so we can also disseminate information on how or the various cases that we are working on from my office as a special prosecutor. I will also collaborate again with the AG department, some of its recommendations in its report, so we can prosecute this corruption and corruption-related menace that we find in our community. And again, also with the education, we also want to add that we need to collaborate effectively so we can be able to curb that menace. However, the Ghanaians have to rise. We all have to come together collaboratively so that we can be able to curb the menace of corruption. I believe my office alone or myself against corruption. So I need the collective efforts of everyone so we can be able to fight the menace of corruption. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Regalia. Well, where do I start from? I see Mr. Michael Nianan is ready. If you are, take it away. Let's start off with Charles Kingsley Arthur Barr.
Charles, you were brief, and I like that. But it's like you were also in a hurry to end whatever you were doing there. Again, you mentioned bringing on board former judges and possible attorney general. And for me, I don't see how that alone would improve the states of corruption as it stands now. But more so, you mentioned declaration of assets. This is something that is going on already. What we don't have is putting it in the public domain for all to see. What do you think about that? Should it be a public documentation that all can have access to or not?
Thank you very much. I believe that it should be a public documentation so that we all know that when I am assuming office, I had A, B, C, and whilst I'm leaving office, depending on what I was able to make, whether it was really legal, that will even tell us, and that we would even find that difficult fighting in a way corruption, because if I don't know what, as an assuming office, if the public doesn't know what you had, then they will definitely don't know what you, when you leave in office, what you added. Thank you.
All right. Noyalty?
Charles Kingsley, right? I found some challenge with your introductory statement, somewhere ending to meeting the expectations of the public. What is this expectation of the public? That is one. Number two, you mentioned how you're going to establish or how you're going to determine the directors of your board. Is that correct? Is this something you have the powers to do, or there is a higher institution than yours to appoint the directors of your institution? Thirdly, I feel you've not made use of the things around you. The Right to Information Act, for instance, how does this help you in the fight against corruption? I didn't hear you say anything about it. And even the act establishing your institution, how does the provisions help you fight against corruption? And how different is your work from that of the Attorney General?
Thank you very much. With my office, what we are going to do is we are going to just make sure that the board members that we are going to appoint, one would with consultation with the higher authority, especially let's say the Attorney General and the President. We are going to appoint not based on political merit, but based on the track records of individuals in Ghana who are also fighting corruption. Yeah. So we are not just going to appoint someone there all because the person has been able to.
The question is, do you have that power to appoint the board members?
No, I don't have the sole power to do that.
So you are making recommendations?
Yes. Yes.
I see.
You've not finished the answers, eh? The Right to Information Act, how does
Yes.
that help you?
It is going to really help my work as a special prosecutor, because we need Mother Ghana to also, we need the citizens to also help us. We are going to, as we are going to fight corruption, what we are going to do is I'm going to educate with my office and then all the other agencies involved. We are going to try to educate the public as to how to make government agencies and institutions account for whatever we do. We are going to ensure that this right to information bill would be out for everybody to be able to access it. And then, based on that, always...
Okay, thank you very much. Lawyer Jantua, is there any comments from you?
It sounds to me that, you know, this is a technical area. It sounds to me that you didn't really research the area deeply to be able to identify some of the questions my fellow panelists are asking. In your submission, you indicated that you would get SPs in all the ministries, yes? Have you considered the cost? Is this something you considered? Because if you're suggesting it, there is a cost to it. Have you considered the political impact of doing this, and whether your party that has put you in that place would agree for you to do that, since majority of corruption in this country can be seen more in the public sector? So have you considered the cost of putting this in place?
Thank you very much. With the cost, yes, we've considered. What I've realized is, at the end of the day, corruption is even making us lose more than getting people to come and take care of it. So if we are able to get a team that would help curb corruption.
Sorry, I mean the financial cost of putting this in place on your office.
Yes, I have spoken with the cabinet, of which, if by the grace of God we win this and assume office, the finance minister would work on it and then...
Anyways, thank you very much. Well, great moments here. And it's interesting. Well, we'll quickly go to Mr. Dow, representing Democrats cabinet, who's ready for him.
Okay, Mr. Dow, yes. One thing I like about your presentation is the breaking down of corruption and its impact, negative impact on each citizen, as you have said. That's the pictorial representation or presentation of corruption. Can you demonstrate that to the student, Odogono Secondary? The beautiful lady there, can you explain to her how corruption is affecting her as a Ghanaian citizen? Demonstrate it.
Thank you so much. Well,
you said it, eh?
Sure, I said it. Reading the reports of CDD Ghana, they stated that Ghana has lost 9.6 billion Ghana cedi through corruption. I'm saying this, and they say this to say that we are losing this money that could channel to our roads or building infrastructure. We can be also channeled to the NHIS that we have today. We can be channeled to different areas within the economy, so we can be able to even fund your free SHS, so that you can also be able to go to school without all the problems of double track and etc.
I see. Truly interesting moments. Do we have follow-up questions from Mr. Dow? Ms. Annan?
You mentioned corruption-free in your submission. Do you really believe in corruption-free?
I think we can get there. That's what I think we can get there.
Do you believe in that?
I do believe in that.
Mr. Jantua?
I repeat the same question. Do you really think we can be a corrupt-free nation? Is that possible? Isn't it rather looking at bringing it down to certain percentages that are more affordable and more likely?
Sure, I want to agree with you partially, in the sense that in the short term, we can be talking about figures or percentages, but in the longer term, we want to achieve a corruption-free country. Thank you.
So let me ask you another question. When you take the sexes, women and men, who are more corrupt?
I currently don't have any data on that, please.
So what's your perception? What's your perception?
My perception is that men are more corrupt than women.
Anyway, a round of applause once again, please. Thank you. And remember, the short code is *714 *13# is the code to vote for these amazing gentlemen. Let the discussion continue, but of course, let the voting continue as well. When I come back from this break, I'll introduce the Lone Ranger that's here. This is Ghana's Youth President. All right, so from the Osajifo cabinet, we have Osman Awima Atia Najat representing. If you're ready, you have 3 minutes. Take it away.
The Speaker, honorable judges, fellow cabinet members, all protocol duly observed. Since the inception of democratic governance in Ghana in 1992, the corruption index pegging Ghana by international organizations have put Ghana below average. Particularly, Transparency International has placed Ghana below 50 in its international rankings, particularly 2018 ranking the highest. It is in this light that I, the Special Prosecutor of the Osajifo Cabinet, highlights 3 most important areas of corruption, particularly political corruption, petty and bureaucratic corruption, and business corruption. It is in this view that we outline certain measures to look out to that. Particularly, first, we put in measures to end it. This is by identifying elements that promote public sector corruption, including patronage, nepotism, secret political party financing, suspicious close ties between political and business, among others. It is in this light that we also seek to use legislation to strengthen the fight against corruption. Particularly, we would seek to foster the passing of the conduct of public officers and guidelines on public international laws to be able to fight corruption. Particularly, we are going to foster the implementation of Article 284 and 288 of the 1992 Constitution to pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. Particularly, Section 239 of the Criminal Code doesn't define corruption, but rather defines a public officer, and subsequent clauses define various forms of corruption, including bribery and extortion. However, this needs modernization, as it does not include corporate or private bribery offenses and corruption. Additionally, we are going to look at investigating and prosecuting money laundering. Thus, investigating and prosecuting appears to form a predicate offense. Ghana also does not actively persuade a policy of tracking confiscation of criminal proceeds. Thus, Ghana's anti-money laundering laws apply largely with international standards. They are weak and sporadically unenforced. Therefore, the implementation of a more remote legislation to reform and to tackle this sector. Additionally, the Whistleblowers Act that was passed in 2006 to promote and protect witnesses who report corruption would be more used.
Okay, so judges, if you're ready, shall we start off with Lawyer Elsie Apau?
Miss Osman,
Yes, ma'am.
you made a statement about Ghana's inception of democracy in 1992. You
Yes.
mean restoration to democratic leadership or its inception? Can you clarify that?
The beginning of constitutional rule in Ghana in 1992.
What about the 1969 constitutions and etc.? Were they not democratic?
They were democratic, but when we are marking democratic governance, because of the inception of the Constitution, we use that as a landmark to be able to identify.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good point. Yeah. I think you've researched quite well. You talked about the Money Laundering Act and the deficiencies thereof. You talked about how whistleblowers can be protected under your law. I want to find out from you in practice, how can political party financing be done?
I think that one major problem facing political party financing is that we don't identify where the money is coming from, who is bringing the money, and that makes us indebted to the persons that bring the money. So I would propose that the state finds ways to finance political parties and all the channels that money will be coming into, because it is a recognizable fact that wherever money is coming from, if it's not properly traced, it will still go down to money laundering and other offenses. So if the state finances those activities, they'll be able to track them.
It's nice to say that the state should fund it, but how, which instrument should the state use or adopt in financing it?
I think the state can use the political parties' dues, the ways the political parties used to raise their funds. Some use banks, they have cards that people have to pay monies and all those things. So when the political parties are able to trace, for instance, me, Najat, I bring money into this into my political party, AYZ. With that, the political party knows that the money is coming from me. They know my assets. They know where I'm getting the money from, whether I'm employed. I would declare my assets because I'll know where my money is coming from. And then with that, they can be able to trace. For instance, if there's a huge sum of money that someone has given to a political party, even with that, you'll be able to trace individuals who are engaged in illegal acts, because with that, you know that, okay, I brought 2 billion Ghana cedis, but then I'm a civil servant. Where am I getting that 2 billion Ghana cedis from?
I really am not in favor of the state financing political parties, because I believe that if the state finances political parties, there would be corruption within the political parties itself. So you get the executives sitting on the money and not using it for what they are supposed to do. Rather, I believe that the only way political parties can be financed is to force its members to pay dues. And we need to find a way around that. The other side of the coin is that political companies that want to fund political parties should be given the chance to do it. The only challenge we have here is that they now, if their party doesn't come into power and another party comes into power, that's it. They are finished. And that are some of the things we need to be able to make sure doesn't happen. Because if my company believes in my party, which is the CPP, and we feel that we need to fund them to win an election, we should be free to do it. Obama did it. So, and we shouldn't say that because they've done it, you castigate them. But you were talking about bringing in legislation.
Yes.
Are you aware of the major challenges of legislation in this country?
Yes.
What is that?
Enforcement.
Exactly. So although you bring in all the legislation, I wanted to hear, how would you enforce this legislation?
Because of time constraints, I actually had a policy that we should set up fast-track corruption courts that are going to adjudicate cases on corruption alone, to be able to fast-track them. Yes.
I see. Next judge, let's do Mr. Michael Niana now.
Well, Awima,
Yes, sir.
I think you are the special prosecutor.
Yes, sir.
Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But in your delivery, it sounds as if you are the president. I was expecting that you come out clearly, being the special prosecutor of your cabinet, to state exactly what you would do in your office. But I think you went a bit overboard. Now, what I am expecting, which I did really not get, was that You are at the end of prosecution, right? Enforcing the law.
Yes, sir.
But detection of corruption, how will you liaise with those agencies that are put up to detect corruption?
Okay. In my submission, I made mention of strengthening institutions. With that, I'm particularly institutions like SRAJ. SRAJ has been mandated to investigate, but not to prosecute cases of corruption. So SRAJ and other organizations that are in charge.
What about the Auditor General?
Yes, the Auditor General is also part of other institutions, but then SRAJ and other institutions, as I said earlier on.
I was expecting you working closer with the Auditor General and lobbying to have a very tight relationship with the Auditor General's office.
All right. Thank you very much. Interesting comments, interesting questions, and of course responses. If you love what Osman Awema Atia Najat did, please just dial star 714 star 13 hash and choose the Osajifo cabinet, and of course select the name Osman Awema Atia Najat. Well, I take a break. When I come back, I'll line them up here. We'll hear what the judges thought. Well, I'll see you after the break.
And I must say,
Right.
that before you step up here, you should understand your office.
Right.
It seems you got here and you were speaking as if you were the president of your cabinet. You are not. You are here to tell us what you will do as an officer of your cabinet to ensure that your positions become beneficial to the state. That is why you are here. And you should understand why you are serving in the cabinet. Right?
No.
Thank you.
Right.
Can I make a comment? You know, to be a legal person, you need to show it. I was quite impressed with the two of you being able to wear the attire for that particular office. I wasn't impressed with you for dressing anyhow. Even in universities, when we practice, there's something called mooting, where we do similar things, but we are supposed to dress like lawyers. It's not only the position, but your technical ability to fit that position is very important. I also thought that with regards to implementation, you were all very low on it. You were quite upbeat when it came to the content, the policy content. But in terms of how you implement it, and also forgetting the finances that you would need to implement this. And I expected you to indicate that you'd spoken with your Minister of Finance. He'd been able to give you some figures as to how you implement some of these things that you wanted to bring in. But on the whole, I think you would also need to brush up if you're going to be the next people to take over from us, the old ones, at this point. But I think it's a good exercise for everyone.
We just want to say a very big thank you to lawyer Kwame Jantwa for coming as well, and also lawyer Elsie Apau, and then Michael Ni Anand. Thanks very much for joining us. We hope to see you again. So voting is on. Please continue voting. Your 40% is on. Remember, the short code is star 714 star 13 hash. Now, it's been a great show, and it's been a great time here on Ghana's Youth President. Remember, let the conversation, the voting continue. Of course, those of you who want to converse with us or chat with us on all our social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, The Presidential Cabinet. We'll be glad to take your comments, questions, or anything you have to share with us. My name is Kokulu and I'm your usual host. I'll see you next week. This has been Ghana's Youth President. I'll see you soon.